Hello and welcome to the AWS-initiated Public Sector Series. I'm Casey Burns, the Health and Human Services Practice Leader for Amazon Web Services. In this presentation today, I'm going to be discussing how Health and Human Services agencies are using cloud technologies to improve their program outcomes, increase organizational agility, and drive costs out of their technologies and out of their programs. We'll also be discussing how organizations across HHS are using advanced analytics and advanced analytics approaches made available on the cloud to really improve the way that they make decisions around really important programs like homelessness and whole person care. Health and Human Services agencies provide vital services to vulnerable and at-risk constituents across the country. Getting the technology right is an essential component of delivering effective, outcome-driven, and integrated services to at-risk populations. As we start to think about health more holistically, to include things like food security, housing security, and economic security in our plans for improving the health of individuals and populations, it's essential that our technologies keep pace as we introduce all this complexity and adaptation into the system. Constant change is the new normal in HHS, but it's not what the current generation of HHS systems were built to handle. There's really 5 key reasons we see organizations moving to the cloud. As government organizations really start to prioritize ease of use and creating great digital services online, it's really driving them to adopt the same tools and technologies that are used by the private sector to deliver these same sorts of online services to their customers. Second, the move to modular systems is really facilitating the movement to the cloud. The cloud was built on a modular, agile, scalable approach that really meets the premise and meets the intent of the move towards modularity in HHS programs. Using a technology that was from its outset intended to provide agility, to provide modularity, to provide reuse, right, is key to how programs go about building on both the intent and the vision of the modularity transition. 3, as programs become more integrated, we really need to have better tools and better approaches for creating accessible systems, for getting data out of our systems, for changing and adding elements to our programs. That's really something that you need a different approach. You need more agility, more speed, and a wholly different set of tools and approaches, right? That's really tough to do in our current systems, using current technologies, using anything that was designed for the data center environment, for the kind of status quo approaches that really prioritize large, heavy, monolithic architectures that are very, very tough to change. Those no longer meet the needs of the program designs that we're putting in place. 4th, as we've really started to examine security and compliance with a deeper lens, we've really started to realize that security and compliance is a reason to move to the cloud, not to avoid it. That's something we'll talk about more in just a moment. And last, very few senior decision makers I interact with think they're well served by their analytics environments right now. Getting data, getting analysis, right, to senior decision makers, to program executives, and to the folks that operate these programs is absolutely key. And that's a real challenge with a lot of systems right now. I feel a lot of organizations are still struggling to do descriptive analytics, let alone kind of prescriptive or predictive approaches to things. We need to get to a place where we can leverage our data in real time and write smart to make extremely smart policy and programmatic decisions using the data from across multiple programs and across multiple systems. There are so many barriers to doing that right now, given the limits of the current technologies in place and the limits of our way of designing and putting these systems in place in the past. All of these, a combination of good technology and a good technology approach enabled by a cloud platform like AWS. This is something we can really start to think about and to execute on this differently now. And we see organizations doing this across the US. One of the major transitions we've seen over the past few years is security and compliance becoming a key reason agencies move to the cloud instead of a factor that prevented adoption of cloud. Agencies have brought numerous mission-critical systems into production on AWS that are compliant with regimes like MARS EA 2.0 and IRS 1075. We've heard from customers that by using AWS, they've increased their overall security compliance posture. They have much better visibility and better data on their security and compliance program, and they've really removed low value and undifferentiated work from their security and compliance teams. This is possible because they've inherited a number of controls from AWS, removing work and complexity from their teams, and they've gained access, critically important, to a set of tools to help them manage the security of their application environment, tools that really would have been impossible to recreate or would have been really difficult to implement in an on-premise environment. This has been one of those really key organizations that's really flipped this notion around. And some of our organizations who were early adopters in the cloud have really sung the benefits of moving to the cloud for the security and compliance gains that they've realized as an organization. For many U.S. government health and healthcare organizations, mission-critical systems have been their first project in the cloud. These include things like the administrative systems running Medicaid, integrated eligibility systems, health benefit exchanges, child welfare system, and unemployment insurance systems. There's a couple of reasons we see organizations adopting cloud for their most important systems first. The move to the cloud for mission-critical systems alleviates a number of current pain points we see in these systems. The lack of resiliency, inability to scale up and down, the lack of modern development tools, and helps organizations reduce their cost profile. It also opens up the world of future possibilities. Leveraging cloud allows agencies to use the same technologies that private sector tech companies like Amazon.com use to deliver world-class services to their customers. These are the tools that are available to all organizations as part of their adoption of AWS. I've mentioned several times throughout this presentation that it's not just about the technology, it's about our approach to technology. Organizations need to become more agile, and their technology needs to match that journey. It's hard to imagine a program not changing every few months or every few years at this point, and their technology needs to be able to support those rapid iterations and those rapid changes to the program. Most of the existing technology systems within HHS organizations are monolithic. They're tightly interconnected, tightly coupled, hard to change. This complexity limits the ability to make changes, makes it difficult to experiment, makes it difficult to add new features, new functionality as they emerge, or to add new program designs as they become available, either in a crisis or just as part of the evolution of a program. With monolithic architectures, all these processors are tightly coupled and they run as a single service. That means if one of these processes goes down or experiences a spike in demand, the entire architecture has to be scaled up. And if one thing fails, the entire application can go down. Decomposing these big monolithic systems into components or modules or services or microservices, depending on how far we decompose, is one approach to really break apart our monoliths and start to provide a more agile, iterative approach for technology building and maintenance that really matches the organizations that we're trying to put in place on the human and process side. In a microservices architecture, software is composed of small, independent services that communicate over APIs. Instead of building these highly coupled architectures, leveraging microservice-based architectures allows us to augment, replace, and transform smaller pieces of the application, allowing us to keep it evergreen over time. One state that has really established itself as a leader in adopting this sort of approach is Maryland in their MD Think program. Maryland is an incredibly innovative state when it comes to thinking through how it delivers health and human service programs to its population. It needed a technology infrastructure and platform, an approach that really matched those policy ambitions with technical aptitude. Maryland realized they couldn't just do this by replacing their legacy systems and often mainframes using the same approaches that they used before. So they really took a whole cloth approach to this and built something called MD Think, which is Maryland's Total Human Services Integrated Network. This put in place a people, a process, and a technology approach, and a single cloud-based platform that allows Maryland's agencies to build on a common, secure framework using a common data model, using common tools, common security standards that allows them to get a more holistic view of the citizens receiving benefits allows them to offer better services to the caseworkers that leverage the platform to do vital in-home visits from a mobile device, and allows much improved access to data so that programs can design and deliver better services and programs. Additionally, this is a much more resilient, available, and scalable platform than many other systems we see across government. It leverages the cloud, it's efficient, it's reduced operational costs, and really allows Maryland to much more accurately manage its data across the entire enterprise and come up with a common view of its beneficiaries. The DC Health Benefit Exchange is another organization that's really benefited from the adoption of the cloud. The DC Health Benefit Exchange was a relatively early adopter of the cloud, building their platform on a highly available, highly secure cloud, that allowed them to scale up and scale down throughout the year as things like open enrollment occurred, right? And to really increase agility in their organization and their processes so that they could iterate and really test and develop new products and really refresh and provide a great experience to the constituents that were using that platform. In doing so, they were also able to save over $1.8 million annually while maintaining strict compliance and security posture, right, up to all the various compliance regimes that are required for them. So DC Health Benefit Exchange is another organization that really has leveraged the cloud to gain agility, save costs, and really improve the experience to their constituents. To put in place adaptable and flexible systems within HHS agencies, it takes thinking about the people and process, not just the technology. Even in the public sector, our goal should be to build systems that have the same user experiences for beneficiaries and workers as those provided by leading private sector companies to their own customers. This takes really rethinking how we think about technology projects and how we go about building them. When I talk with agency executives, I spend as much time talking about how Amazon built its culture of innovation and the approaches we use to developing products as I do speaking about technology in the cloud. Right? I'll often hear, yes, 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 I am going to go to the cloud. Let's talk about how Amazon built its culture of innovation. How can I apply those own lessons to my organizations? How can I start to deliver experiences that feel like a leading private sector organization delivers to its own constituents online? This really makes sense, as I think one of the key gaps between the public and the private sector is the approach. It's not just the tools. The tools matter, but if you adopt great tools and don't start to adopt incremental and agile approaches in conjunction with them, you're not going to realize the full benefit, not being able to deliver those user-obsessed, adaptable, flexible technologies that we're aiming for. Code for America is a nonprofit technology organization that aims to improve how governments serve people, starting with the most vulnerable populations. Code for America has really aimed to show that government services can be easy, they can be fast, they can be beautiful, right? That they can be just as good as those delivered by private sector organizations. A telling example of this is their work around the creation of a product called Get Cal Fresh, which was an online eligibility application really built from the constituent perspective, prioritizing accessibility and ease of use. It put the SNAP benefit application form online, made it accessible via smartphone, easy to use from really any web browser, with the aim of really making the program more accessible to the millions of Californians who are eligible for the program, but were not enrolled. Through extensive user research, through design, and through development of a really great citizen-focused, constituent-focused product that really aims to create access for most vulnerable populations, the site is now collecting over 20,000 applications a month and helping to increase food security for at-risk Californians and really bring down the participation gap, which was really important for the state who wanted to get eligible residents enrolled in the program who were not already receiving benefits to help put food on the table and ease hunger throughout the state. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services really pioneered the use of cloud for analytics by HHS organizations. CMS embraced the cloud after really struggling for years to put in place a technology system that could span the breadth and the sheer scale of the Medicaid program, Right now, all 75 million Medicaid covered lives are on AWS in a very secure data repository managed by CMS, right? This gives their analysts access to records on all Medicaid beneficiaries, allowing them to do really important analysis on new program designs, on fraud, waste, and abuse, right? To dive in and really understand utilization, cost of drugs, who's getting vaccinations, prenatal care, right? All you answer really important questions that were hard to answer, especially at a national level before, just given the sheer size of the Medicaid program. CMS was able to do this because they adopted and were really forward-leaning on adopting a different approach that really led them to adopting the cloud and AWS specifically as the foundation for their analytics programs. Thank you for joining this part of the AWS Initiate Public Sector Series. You'll find additional resources with the associated web pages. Thank you. Have a great day.